When a dear friend and mentor lost his wife after a 6-year battle with ovarian cancer, my colleagues and I were worried about him. He and his wife had been together for 43 years, and they had tried everything to treat her illness. My coworkers and I spoke about our worries, not in the way people sometimes do when they're enjoying a little gossip, but out of genuine concern. Don't you think he's jumping back into work too fast? Shouldn't he take more time off? How will he lead the mourner's Kaddish at services? I gently asked him if he wanted to step back or step off the bima altogether. I told him I could cover commitments for him or simply just lead mourner's Kaddish in his place. But he assured me he was fine, that he didn't mind leading the mourner's Kaddish. He had his own practice. For 3 minutes each day, he took time to remember his wife and search for something comforting in the universe. A chirping bird, rustling leaves, the sound of running water. Whenever he could, he'd walk out to the woods behind his house to sit on a bench he and his in-laws had carried up a hill together. He and his wife used to sit on that bench side by side. One of the times I offered to help early on, he said something that surprised me even more. He wanted to come to work, to continue to lead the community. It filled him up. It brought him joy. It comforted him as he grieved. I learned an important lesson that day. My mentor was coping much better than I thought someone could in his circumstances, which made me realize what we think a mourner needs might be very different than what they actually need. And what we imagine we would need after a loss might be very different too. The book of Ruth, which we read on Shavuot, opens with devastating loss. In the midst of famine, Naomi's husband Elimelech dies. For years, Naomi remains with her 2 sons and their wives, Ruth and Orpah. But then the unthinkable happens. Her sons die. Ruth and Orpah become widows. And Naomi loses both her husband and her children. Despite the loss, Naomi moves quickly into action. She sets out with her daughters-in-law to find food, and then, in a beautiful act of selflessness, Naomi urges Ruth and Orpah to return to their Moabite families. There, perhaps, they might begin anew, remarry, build families of their own. The 3 women weep together. Orpah decides to return home. Ruth declares she will stay with Naomi and follow her wherever she goes. These biblical verses offer us 3 different responses to grief. Naomi makes plans and prepares for her future, not only her own, but Ruth and Orpah's as well. Orpah decides she must return to the place she came from, and Ruth feels drawn to remain with her late husband's mother, to grieve alongside her, and to continue her life with the community she married into. The Tanakh presents their choices without judgment. And throughout Torah, we encounter many different models of mourning. After his wife Sarah dies, Abraham immediately enters into a business transaction, purchasing the cave of Machpelah and burying Sarah there. After Sarah's death, Isaac brings his new wife Rebekah into his mother's tent, perhaps seeking his mother's presence at one of life's most sacred moments. When Jacob believes his son Joseph has died, he tears his clothes, wails, refuses consolation, and mourns for many days. When Aaron's sons Nadab and Abihu die, Aaron is silent. After years of speaking for his brother Moses, when Moses could not speak for himself, Aaron himself becomes speechless. And then there is Moses, who flies into a fit of rage and disobeys God right after his sister Miriam dies. Which response is normal, correct, acceptable, understandable? All of them. Grief expert and author David Kessler speaks about the preconceived notions we hold about what grief is supposed to look like. We see someone putting one foot in front of the other, and we think, they shouldn't be coping so well. They must be in denial. Or we drag ourselves out of bed in the morning, barely, and think, it's been a year. I'm supposed to be much better now. What's wrong with me that I'm still so distraught? Kessler says that our grief is as unique as our fingerprint. Some people are what he calls practical mourners. They plan the funeral in Shiva, and then they move forward. Of course, they miss their loved one terribly, but they return to daily life rather seamlessly. It is not avoidance, it is not denial, it is simply their nature. And then there are those who feel like they are sinking into the depths, unsure if they'll ever reach the surface again. The pain feels unbearable. They cry until there are no tears left. Anger radiates through them. Everything irritates them. They can't concentrate on anything. They're exhausted or numb or both. As a rabbi who so often supports people in the immediate aftermath of a death, I sometimes wish I had a brochure I could hand the bereaved. Inside it, there would be a flow chart with arrows. It would explain exactly what would happen month by month, year by year. The mourner and those supporting them would know exactly what the process of grief would bring. But of course, such a brochure is impossible. So what do we do in a world where loss touches every life and there's no blueprint, where even the so-called stages of grief do not hold up in contemporary research? We try not to judge, not other mourners, and especially not ourselves. It is hard enough to lose the person who always knew what to say when we were in a funk, or the person who made us laugh until we cried. It is hard enough to lose the person who made us feel needed, wise, and loved, or even the person who disappointed us, who said nothing or the wrong thing, but whom we loved anyway. Loss is already hard enough without the unfair expectations we place on ourselves and others about how grief is supposed to look. Some of us are here this morning because we lost someone very recently. The pain is raw. Some of us are here because we lost someone long ago. We still yearn for the sound of their voice, and sometimes we worry it's fading away. Most of us are here to remember someone who mattered deeply to us, someone we loved more than words can describe. We are here because love and grief become woven together within us. And so this morning, I invite you to grieve the way you need to, just as so many of our biblical ancestors did. As the memories come and the emotions rise and fall, try to remember there is no right or wrong way to do this. And try to feel deep in your heart that in this community, you're not alone.